The long-awaited and hyped Kaiju number 8 is finally out, but is it any good? Well, yeah, kinda. This anime had a very special premiere behind it, driving a lot of hype. It is officially the first ever anime to be streamed to Twitter/X, which was a highly unique experience. Over on that platform, we were treated to 2 special Kaiju number 8 pre-shows where the staff and Japanese cast talked about the show, giving unique insights into the series. Overall, it was a pretty cool event, and on top of that, hey, the episode was really good too. I was surprised to find that a lot of Kaiju number 8 reminds me of Attack on Titan, which, you know, is a series I'm quite familiar with. So, was all of this hype even worth it? Well, let's find out together. This is Kaiju number 8, episode 1. If you enjoy my videos, be sure to subscribe, grab a t-shirt, become a patron, or pick up some gamer subs using my link in the description or pinned comment, or become a community member by joining our Discord community. All roads lead to the description. What caught me by surprise was the episode really starts by getting into the action immediately. My very first impressions of the visuals also are that I like them. It has a very desaturated, modernistic take that gives it a very realistic, lifelike vibe. And this is something Production IG, the studio behind this anime, is very much known for. I would even go as far to say that the overall artistic direction feels like a more modern take on something like Ghost in the Shell standalone complex, which is also an anime by Production IG. In other words, the art design has a lot of hallmarks from Production IG and what they usually produce. In the past, when I've covered other IG series like The Legend of Galactic Heroes, The New Thesis, there was a very vocal minority that very much seemed to not like IG's approach because of its more realistic and desaturated colors. I tend to disagree though, as I think Kaiju number 8 looks fine the way it is, but I do know that there is some sort of talking point and controversy out there about the way this show looks, which we'll get into later in the video. So, shockingly, the series opens up with a Kaiju attack, and I love the urgency and the choice to do it here and not later in the episode. After all, this is a series about Kaiju, and by God, we want to see some gigantic monsters mess up Tokyo. So I'm very happy they chose to dive into this immediately. Obviously. From the context clues of all the emergency warnings though, it very much seems like Kaiju attacks are just a very regular thing that happens in this world. And let me tell you, Kaiju is the pinnacle of cool, but I would never want to live in this world, especially with what's about to happen in this episode. But the animation though, oh my God, it is so good. And that's not surprising, as this may be, you know, obviously one of the greatest animation studios to ever grace this planet. But even then, seeing this Kaiju whip around in a crowded city, destroying everything like it's paper, is just so cool, scary, and awe-inspiring. We also see in classic IG fashion a team of armed soldiers close in on the Kaiju's position as some great OST plays and a chopper takes fire on the Kaiju, and it just seems that there are divisions of people who fight these Kaiju, and they're almost like heroes or celebrities to these people. And this is the first thing that kind of reminded me of Attack on Titan, with how people within the walls look up to the Survey Corps, except in Kaiju, they're very much universally praised by the looks of it instead of, what is the word, maligned? We see first exactly why that is, as a girl in a badass tight-fitting armor jumps from a chopper, lands on her feet while we see the destruction that the Kaiju is leaving behind, knocking a building over like it was a Jenga tower, and once again, very much in AOT fashion. 3rd Division closes in as a team showcasing some crazy mobility, which makes me think either these soldiers are enhanced to some degree, or their suits allow them to achieve such mobility, or it's just anime. Since this first episode reminded me so heavily of AOT, I'm gonna take a guess and say it may be the suit though. But we see our main girl take fire with what looks to be like some awesome railgun that you'd see in like Halo 3, as she puts a hole in the Kaiju's chest, killing it and sending into the sky a rush of blood as it comes raining back down. Seriously, this girl is a major badass and gives me some Motoko Kusanagi vibes immediately, which is a good thing. Motoko is a badass. What's interesting, though, is that our next scene sort of set up and world build a little bit while introducing our main character, Kafka. Okay, not that Kafka, this Kafka. Your ordinary Joe works cleaning up the bodies of the kaiju left behind by the soldiers. And it does not seem like a great job to work in, most notably because it seems like even the body parts of these kaiju can severely injure or kill you, like what happened to this guy's knee. But this episode does a really good job showcasing Kafka's kindness to his juniors and co-workers. He very much is a good guy who looks after his people, or seemingly even strangers at times. Also, like, Jesus, can we talk about how the entire portion of this city is just sprayed in blood and it's on literally everything? Like, imagine how disgusting it would be to live here and how bad the smell would be. Like I said, I couldn't live in this world, and at this point, I don't think you could pay me enough to consider it. But, you know, I am open for offers, just saying. And hey, here's another aspect that reminds me of AOT. The 3rd Division soldiers walk through the city as they're being cheered by everyone. Seriously, I'm starting to suspect the mangaka of this series took a lot of direct inspiration for Hajime Isayama. Though I'm not complaining, I just find the parallels interesting and sort of noteworthy because they're kind of obvious. Also, did anyone else when watching Kafka talk about cleaning up this mess and how nobody appreciates or is grateful for it? Think about Dirty Jobs with Mike Rowe. But what's most notable is a drone comes by to pick up a sample. I'm purely speculating here, but as a person who has never read or experienced Kaiju number 8 properly, I wonder if these samples are used to experiment and potentially develop new technologies to further the human race, and especially the Division soldiers. I absolutely wouldn't be surprised if there is something even more sinister beneath everything because, you know, Kaiju as monsters, they're monsters. They can't speak as far as we know. So I don't think Kaiju number 8 will forever be just about killing Kaiju, but, you know, maybe there is some corruption going on. I know, too early to speculate, but it's really fun to think about this stuff, isn't it? So just throwing it out there. But we then see this great big shot of the dead Kaiju, and it's just, wow. Whoever was in charge of this art needed several raises because this spread here was simply immaculate. Killer design. But Kafka gets the shortest straw. Oh, it has to deal with the intestines of the kaiju, and less said about this shit, the better. Pun intended. Back at home after a long day of work, we get some insight into Kafka as a person. He's single, lives alone, like me for real, and is experiencing the bachelor's life doing what he wants, but he feels like something is missing in his life. On his TV, the news plays showcasing the 3rd Division captain, Mina Ashiro, and she's the epitome of calm and collected, wearing a stoic, fierce, and determined face. And fierce she is, as she's slayed hundreds of kaiju at this point. So she's sort of like your Levi Ackerman type, which is, well, you know, what I'm getting from her. Oh, hey, what you know it, another Attack on Titan parallel, and another one. Turns out that Mina and Kafka know each other as kids and promise to eliminate all the kaiju not alone, but together. I immediately from this moment got the idea that there had to be some falling out between Mina and Kafka. My guess is the clues that were left for us throughout this entire episode, and the most obvious is, as well, their occupation. It seems like Mina wanted to go into 3rd Division and fight the kaiju directly, while Kafka clearly had other choices to make and seemed to have a major disagreement and falling out with her. But this is anime, so I guarantee you they'll be arguing like a married couple by episode 2. And of course Kafka would think that his life isn't enough right now. It isn't. It clearly isn't. Peace of mind and living alone is very rad. Very cool. A unique and original experience, one could say. But the heart wants challenge and experience. It's very clear that Kafka needs a little bit of inspiration, something new in his life to get the juices flowing. And clocking into work, Kafka is introduced to a new part-time student working with them, Ichikawa, who is determined to join the Defense Force. Through this, we learn that Kafka also wanted to join the Defense Force too as well, but gave up. So no wonder he doesn't talk to Mina or feel like his life is going anywhere. It's because he chose the easiest path, the one that is filled with fewer hardships, the one that he kind of strayed from. Which is fair. I mean, you can't judge someone for choosing stability in a world that is as cruel as the one they live in, but I could see Mina hating his decision and his attitude around just giving up. After all, she's so fierce and determined that it makes sense why she's cutting contact with someone who is essentially underachieving, whether good or bad, whatever the reason may be. Also, we don't even know who cut contact with who yet, which is another question that is left up after this episode. Ichikawa, though, well, he wants to know why he's given up, and Kafka says something interesting. Basically that no matter how hard he tried, there was always someone better. And so he feels like it's sort of like an age thing where you only really see it once you get enough experience. But Ichikawa, being younger and filled with more fire and youth and passion, doesn't appreciate that nor understand that line of thought and really never wants to. After work, Kafka, despite having a very tense introduction to Ichikawa, gives him some helpful tips and pointers to help him on his first day, like nose plugs, to help with that horrible smell. And this eventually does earn him the respect of Ichikawa at the end of the day, and the young lad, in his way, makes up for his disagreement, explaining he thought that Kafka seemed to have given up, when in reality it sort of looked like he still wanted to be in the defense force. But this is where we get into some killer action, as another kaiju appears, almost gobbling up Ichikawa like Ymir did to Marco and AOT. That's right, we're still doing the reference thing here. I don't know what I just said. But Kafka saves him and tells him to run away and get help, and wow, this sequence is just so beautiful. The kaiju chases Kafka through a building, leading him to break through the glass, cutting his face, which sends him right back into another flashback between Kafka and Mina. And both of them promise together to join the defense force and eliminate all of the kaiju. Back in the present, Kafka makes his stand against the kaiju, but it doesn't end too well, as he is simply swatted away and his leg broken in two as he goes to be eaten. It's Ichikawa who then saves Kafka after calling for the defense force, and Ichikawa has the heart of a defense force soldier, as he believes backing down now really would harm his, him being a defense force soldier. After all, if he wants to be one, he can't back down, so why would he here? And just as quick as Ichikawa arrives, 3rd Division isn't far behind, as a freaking tiger comes out of nowhere and bites the kaiju's hand, while Mina and the rest of the 3rd Division decimate the kaiju. Ooh, the animation here was just sudden, visceral, and insanely detailed. My guys, the lady has a tiger. That immediately makes Mina best girl, right? Right? Even Kafka agrees, as he says that she could reach places that he never could, which right there shows the issue of their relationship. Kafka gave up on his dream because Mina was better than her, and that eventually seemed to get to him and wear him down, and he couldn't stop making that comparison in his head, which is kind of tragic for the both of them. But Ichikawa is there with him in the hospital, trying even more to get him to join the defense force, and he very well may have gotten his wake-up call. Ichikawa tells him that he's cool, and this reminds him of the promise that he made to Mina, to see who will become the coolest officer. Thinking Ichikawa, a bug, from out of nowhere flies into his throat, after saying, "Found him." From there, he is turned into a like a kaiju hybrid thingy. I'm sort of thinking like, Attack Titan stuff here, but the after credits are even more interesting and noteworthy for reasons, showcasing Mina in the only way anime knows how to: a sexy bath scene. Mina remembers the two of them studying about kaiju and fighting them at a very young age as just kids. She recalls Kafka supporting her, telling her that he'll always be by her side, as she touches a scar on her upper chest area. I wonder if this scar is notable as maybe a scar from a battle where they argued and then had a falling out. Maybe he couldn't just stand seeing her injured or something like that. Either way, she calls him a liar, and she'll get her chance to meet him again because a kaiju was spotted at Kafka's hospital, and I guarantee you, I'm just saying, it's probably Kafka. I gotta say, I very much enjoyed this first episode, and while I'm sure people want me to shut up already about Attack on Titan, I dug the parallels between the two, and I think it's worth noting. But also, the series I think is very much promising. I know this series has had some talking points around it, like the character designs being changed and that it looks generic, which, that's a talking point thing. It is what it is, take it or leave it. But after this first episode, I don't really think that any of the talking points matter at all. I think you can make an argument that it's somewhat derivative in certain ways, but for me, I feel it's too early to make a judgment call just yet. Either way, this is a series I am definitely looking forward to the next episode of. I need to see Kafka and Mina interact, man. I feel there is a romance brewing between these two, and I think they'll do that through the two making amends with one another and finally becoming friends again. I also think that it's very clear that the government will discover that Kafka can transform into a kaiju, much like Eren Yeager could with the Attack Titan, so I think they'll capture him and and use him, and maybe he'll be in 3rd Division with Ichikawa as his tag-along. It's a very obvious setup, but once again, obvious doesn't mean bad. I'm quite looking forward to what comes next. Leave a comment telling me your thoughts about Kaiju number 8, episode 1. Did it live up to all of this immense hype of being the first anime streamed to Twitter, and just the immense hype in general? Are you excited for more? Let me know, guys and gals. If you enjoyed this video, then subscribe and drop a like, buy a t-shirt, become a patron, or use code CTACTICS to get 10% off your order of gamer subs. These ways directly help support the channel and what I do here. Thank you everyone for watching. Bye-bye.